All right. Well, we are here. This is Michael Adway and Ben Nobles for the first time ever. It's going to be episode number 1 of the Pursuit of Music podcasts. So, yeah, we're excited. I've never been more pumped at 6:26 a.m. in my entire life.
Yeah, it's early and it's cold.
Yeah, it was extremely cold. I don't know if you know this, but I backed my truck up to the door so that I could get the equipment in here. I'm always thinking about efficiency and how to be smarter with my time. So. Anyways, let's get going. So, first of all, I think we should just explain who we are. Just kind of give a little bit of background and like a very, minute, 2 minutes
Let's do it.
per person. So, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Michael Adaway. I'm a professional trumpet player in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Do a lot of teaching privately. Been doing that for over a decade. And I play with the Richardson Symphony. Can we see with the Dallas Pops Orchestra, different groups in the area. I'm also an adjunct professor at Tarrant County College, and I think I just got hired over at Collin College.
Really?
Colleges are weird because they'll hire you, but they won't really tell you you're hired.
It's like a teaser. It's like, maybe.
It makes no sense to me at all. I can't. Anyway,
Did TCC do that to you?
Kind of.
Yeah.
My interview at TCC, this was with a department head that's not there right now, so it's not like I'm bad-mouthing anyone that's there. But I called them up and actually offered to do a free master class on the high school Region Music that year. And she said, sure, you want to come over and we'll just talk about what you want to do? And I said, sure. And so to make a long story short, we did the master class, and at the end, the department head said, so do you want to work here? And I said, sure. And that was my interview.
Sure. That's great.
So anyway, I currently work over there and looking at coming over to Collin College because it's a little closer to my house. And then I'm also at a classical education school in Dallas. So stay pretty busy and definitely excited to be on this podcast and starting with the Pursuit of Music with Ben. So anyway,
I
take it away.
So my background is in a bunch of stuff. I kind of take pride in the fact that I've done a lot of stuff. Obviously, I've kept my main focus as being a trombone player, being a trombone teacher. I've been teaching since I was 18 years old, so that was last year? No, I'm just kidding. It's about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, sometime around there. About to be 25. So. And I went to the University of Houston, played in a couple seasons at TMF, a couple of weeks at the Texas Music Festival down there in Houston. And then outside of that, I kind of saw the opportunity. I actually heard about John Alstron, who's the head director at Prosper High School up here. I heard that he was headed up here. And when you first hear news about your old director heading to a town that you've never heard of, you're like, what is he doing? And then come to find out that he's actually completely morphing a program into greatness, and we've come to realize that, especially this year with the marching program. So,
right, yeah.
I just wanted to be a part of that, so I came up here and had one student, and in fact, that student is I'm not going to say him by name, but he was notorious for slamming his instrument against the music stand. So,
like on purpose?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I know that's an issue with trombone players with their slides.
Yeah, well, it was actually the bell section. So Yeah, so anyway, so now I teach about 80 students between Salina, Prosper, and Frisco. So I've got the geographical north vertical line drawn. So, but now that we're here, let's move on into, let's take this as an opportunity to segue into like what Pursuit of Music is doing, like what kind of impact we want to make, and kind of like what our mission statement is.
So yeah, the purpose of this business, and we're brand new. And by the way, I guess we should say before, we're throwing out a bunch of suburbs. We're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We assume our first listeners are going to be from the area, be local students, but hopefully it won't stay that way.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I imagine.
And by the way, this is just for you all who are listening, and we hope there is going to be a listener eventually. This will be the dirtiest podcast that we do. So this is us just getting things going, there is such thing as the paralysis of analysis. So, you can think so much about doing something, but unless you start, sometimes you just don't start.
So bear with us.
Yeah, so bear with us. Have some patience. This will definitely get cleaner and better and all that. So what were we talking about? Oh, what we're doing. So our purpose is to empower the 21st century music student, and we're going to be doing that through the web, as well as podcasts and events, and essentially, we're going to provide an outlet for students to enhance their music studies. We're going to start with band programs because, quite honestly, that's where we are familiar. Mm-hmm. And we'll have events like summer camps, and then we've got some other ideas, things coming up soon. 2019, we're going to be starting our brass summer camp, and there will be more details on that very soon. But keep your eyes open for that. And then, do you want to take the other side of the website?
Yeah, so we'll have another. There are a few other aspects on top of what Michael was talking about, and there's, we've kind of noticed that there are some issues in the band world as far as just accessibility to a professional. And so, if you take the general concept of private lessons, it's you having the opportunity to have a professional come to you. You spend time with that professional, hearing them, kind of getting their. You're basically paying us for our thought process. Like, how did we are like the light at the end of the tunnel. How did we are the kid that was in your shoes, and you could be in our shoes if you do what we did, right? I assume that's kind of how you think of it. And so my thinking was, whenever I was coming up with this idea, and I know Michael said that he's had this idea in the past, and plenty of people have had this idea. I think we're just the ones acting on it. We kind of realized how ridiculous it was that nobody has given good quality access to people who are good at their instruments. I mean, really good at their instruments, right? So that's point number one, is we want our students and other kids out there to have access to our playing, essentially. And in fact, for much less than the cost of what private lessons are. I mean, the average student of mine pays $80 a month for lessons. So we wanted to become more efficient and give them more opportunities to play along with us. And then number two, if you're from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you're very lucky. You probably have access to a good private lessons teacher. That's not the case for most of the state, right? So I know that I know personally, when I went to the University of Houston, which Houston is a ginormous area with a bunch of people and a bunch of band kids and a bunch of kids that just love being in band or being music students. And I got calls from all over the place as an 18-year-old, and my average day of dress was shorts and a t-shirt. That was business for me. So I got calls as an 18-year-old kid who had no idea what he was doing from about 10 different high schools, all just begging me to even show up. So if that's happening in Houston, I know it's happening everywhere else, and I know that there's a need for that. So, and then the third one, we're just going to be consulting with band directors to give beginners an opportunity to hear a professional no matter what instrument they play. So the issue is that normally a director will be a specialist at one instrument. They'll be a really, really fine trumpet player, but they don't play French horn, tuba, trombone, or euphonium. So when they need examples for really high quality playing, they don't have access to that. The kids don't have access to that either. So that's where we're thinking about stepping in and coming in. So
yeah, and just to add to that, the purpose of us is not to replace the typical private lesson.
Of course not.
This is the enhancement too. So we're hoping to work in conjunction with other private teachers, so that we can help them, they can help us, and it's just going to be this wonderful, theoretically, this wonderful relationship between professionals in the area and then what we're doing.
Yeah, and I thought about that too, and I was because that was kind of the initial thought was they're going to think that we're trying to get rid of the private lessons industry, and I think the number who's really going to take a hit from this, if a band parent sees, or one of my students' parents sees that they can have access to me 24/7 for a certain amount per month, that's significantly less than what they're paying. Who's going to lose students? It's we are, So, and I don't think that's going to happen because, and the number one reason is if there is inherent value in getting immediate feedback, right? We can only provide so much as an online format to what the student needs to hear, and we can only respond so quickly to what a student needs to hear. And also on top of that, my thoughts are like if you lose students over what we're providing, that's probably not on us. That's probably on you. You're probably just not a very good private lessons teacher. So burn. Ooh, so cold in here. Okay. So, anyways, and then I think it'd be a good idea to just kind of talk about what we're even doing here on the podcast. Like, why are we just creating a podcast so that we can talk to each other, or what's the purpose
Yes.
of the pod? Yes.
Yes. We had these long conversations, and
we do this
just
at the
figured
house
we
every day.
record
We
it.
figured we record. But yeah, do you want to talk about that?
So this is serving several purposes. We're going to talk about what we're seeing throughout the week in our own teaching and in our own playing. I'm not sure we've even discussed how often we're going to do this podcast, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or every other week.
As
whatever.
often as we do. That's it.
Yeah, but it's to share. What are we seeing? What advice can we give to kind of counteract that?
Yeah.
And then also to talk about some of the music that we're listening to. We all in this field feel that we should be promoting classical music, promoting the field, and this is just going to give us another forum to be able to say, hey, look how cool this is.
Right.
Right. So we'll do that, and then obviously this is just to get the word out about who we are, what we're doing, so that we can have the biggest reach possible.
Right, and then I think on top of that we can, I've got here in my notes that we're discussing current and future topics in the music world, because where else is there a forum where people talk about that? I feel like there's sometimes in music it's a little highbrow. It's like a little bit holier than thou. Like,
Yes.
British accent. I'm not going to do my British accent for y'all's sake, but
That's too bad.
yeah, I'm sorry.
And you know what else it is? Sorry to butt in.
That's
It's not just highbrow, but it's also usually for old people.
Yes.
One of the things that drives me crazy is listening to the classical radio station, and the commercials you get are for burial plots. It's like, how are we going to reach our young audience? We're talking about where you're going to be buried.
There's that's the commercial that's followed up by the old folks home
Right.
advertising and the life insurance. Like, you
Gosh.
need to get this life insurance, man.
Go get your ARP card. Here's where you get it. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. You don't hear the marching the Fred J. Miller advertising for marching uniforms on there, because
Right.
old people don't wear marching uniforms. So
But that's true.
I would like to just personally, I would like to talk about ways to have a good practice and work ethic, and obviously, if you haven't gotten the point yet, to the listeners, if you don't care about band, this podcast was not meant for you, right? Just like Jocko Willing's podcast was not meant for people who think the military is awful, or like if you have no interest in listening to celebrities, you probably don't want to go listen to Joe Rogan. Or if you don't believe in like what, let's say, Jordan Peterson stands for, you're not going to go listen to him. So if you don't believe in what we believe in, which is that band is a vital part of what we do here in our society, music is a extremely vital, important part of what we do here, then this isn't for you. So, but if you do care about that, you do want to learn how to have good practice habits and have good life balance, and maybe might even go into how to keep a budget or talk about things like college budgets and all that kind of stuff, like extra important stuff that you're not going to hear in school anywhere else. That's what we're going to be here for. And what's fun about having a forum like this, in my opinion, is that it's up to us. Like we can talk about whatever we want to talk about, as long as it's pertinent to what is going on in the music world. So.
And I think also eventually we'll open it up to questions. We're on social media and all that, and so you can absolutely submit questions to us that you'd like us to address in the future. So anyway, more information on that coming up, but that'll definitely be a part of what we do.
Right. So I think this would typically be the part of the podcast where we'll go and just kind of discuss what we've been seeing as far as I'm sure you want to talk about your practice time, like what you're noticing in your practice time, what I'm noticing in my practice time, and then what we see is going on with our students. So I would like to start with my playing. I finally got my playing back. I don't know why. I don't know if you ever experienced this, but like there will be weeks where my playing just takes a huge dip.
Yeah.
And it takes about 1 or 2 mornings of where I don't do a good warm up. like I'll have my first student will come in and they'll be playing one of my favorite solos. So instead of actually going through a warm up process, I'll just go start playing, and then
Right.
the rest of my day is ruined. I can't get it back until the next day, and then like the third or fourth day, I start to feel normal. But then like I'll take a Saturday off, and it's like
Right.
and I just can't get it back. I got it back this week, so I'm super excited about that.
Awesome.
Have you ever experienced
Yeah,
that
we-
whole? I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure you
We're
have.
cursed with being human, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. So the inconsistencies was just, and it drives me nuts because it's like when you can't play up to your potential, it's like I see all these funny videos where like the band kid will like slam his head against the stand or something like
Right.
that.
Or the bell.
That's right. That's right. So that's what I'm noticing in my playing this week. I don't know about you. But.
Yeah, so you know, from the week, the biggest observation that I had, or the biggest discovery, and I'm constantly making discoveries about teaching and about playing, was with my students.
Really?
And I've got several students that I'm rebuilding embouchures because they got braces, or they're beginners, or they've
Can we
just
talk
developed
about the
bad
braces
habits.
thing real quick?
Yeah.
Because I just the brace like I don't know what every time I get emails all the time. I'm thinking about my child getting braces. I'm thinking about braces, or they're getting them on, they're taking them off. Like I don't have enough experience with kids. I kind of shrug my shoulders. Like what in your experience, you got a lot more teaching experience than I do. Like what have you found? Like if let's do two scenarios. You're putting them on. What is affected? You're taking them off. What's affected?
Well, I think for a trumpet player is a little different from a trombone player first, because the size of the mouthpiece, you know, ours sits directly on the bracket. So I can't.
That
I
sounds
can't.
awesome.
Yeah, I can't totally speak to what it's like for a trombone player. I hear for tuba players, it's not a big deal at all.
Okay.
But you know, I rebuild the kids basically from the ground up. Now, if they've
Wow,
been
okay.
playing for a while, that should be a quick process as far as, you know, I don't have to teach them how to read music. They've been doing that for a while. I don't need to teach them notes.
Right.
But you do need to kind of rebuild their face, take them through the process of starting to hold notes properly and lip slurs and all that. So, you know.
So you basically like go back to the fundamentals.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
really
yeah.
go back to the fundamentals.
You know, maybe this sounds extreme. I take them back to like first semester, first year of playing. And so we talk about, okay, now that you have this weird thing in your face, or when it goes away, let's make sure that we're making a proper embouchure.
Have you found that works?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it would work.
Right.
Because I mean, if you think about it just theoretically, what are we doing when we first teach them? Exactly that. Like
Right.
we're teaching them basically a new system. So
yeah,
that's good because I've never really had an answer for people.
yeah.
And I've had, you know, a lot of times it gets to the point where like they'll actually start to tear up because they're so frustrated.
Oh, yeah. I've had
And I
that
can
many
imagine.
times. I've had that a couple times this week.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I can't imagine. There's a reason why my teeth are as straight as they are.
Right, right. So,
Because
you
I
know,
never wanted to get those, but anyway.
one of the concepts that I've been using this week that seems it's I don't know if it's I hope it's helping. It's helping me as a teacher, but I don't know if you ever read any books by Tim Ferriss.
I
He
haven't.
wrote the 4-Hour Work Week, which was real popular.
The 4 hour?
4-Hour Work Week.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, and that's why it was so popular. It's
Yes,
the idea
please.
of doing a little bit of work and making a lot of money, which you know everyone wants in their life.
Yeah.
And one of the concepts that he uses in there is the idea of the minimum effective dose. And
Okay.
you know, I don't think personally that this is a great concept for how to live life, because for him it was, what's the minimal amount that you can do to get the results that you want? And I guess there's some logic to it, because you know if you have a task that you're working at, it is possible to not do enough work to get it done.
Right.
And it's also possible to do so much work that you're kind of overworking it. You're getting it done, but you're putting in a lot of extra hours that don't need to be done. So I guess there is something there. But I think the
Right.
idea of a minimum effective dose is interesting when building an embouchure, or just focusing on the first notes of the day. What's the minimal amount of work that you can do to create sound?
Yeah.
You know, what do you do? What is the minimal amount that you can do with your lips to catch and get vibrations? And one of the things that we strive for all the time is the idea of a relaxed and beautiful sound, and that's a really important part of it. Is just create this free blowing sound.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've been focusing a lot on that this week.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think is so interesting because as the musician gets better and as my kids get better and better and better, they kind of put those things in the satchel as if like I have that and I don't have to like. There's a difference between saying I've got it and I'm going to maintain it, and then
Right.
saying I've got it and I don't need to think about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at a 7th grade trombone player's positions. You'll look at them and be like, I wish I could call your 6th grade self back to show you where third position is, because that is
Right.
not third position, right? Or
Right.
second position, or any one of those. Yeah, I think, and then just it's funny because I walk into the high school most mornings when you're there, and I hear you doing all of these fundamentals, and I always go back to this concept, and this kind of goes. I'll go down this rabbit trail real quick. I walked into the Jones Hall for the Houston Symphony, and I walked in, and Dave Kirk, who's the principal tubist for the Houston Symphony, was playing something, I believe, with a metronome. Like I could hear like a clicking, and he was like tapping his toe to make sure that he was playing something correctly.
Right.
And it dawned on me, it's like, dude, that's Dave freaking Kirk. Like,
Right.
and if he's got to do it, who am I to not do it?
Right.
You know, and then I hear people like you who are extremely talented at their instruments doing the basics and the fundamentals, and it makes me want to go to all my middle schoolers who refuse to do that and go, you will never achieve anything until you start doing that stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
so, and then you hear the top students at the band at the band program at Prosper, just as an example, and they all, I mean, they're centered in on doing sound-based fundamentals before they start,
Right.
just to establish that best sound.
I've got a blog post that I wrote that I'll be reposting on our website. But the gist of it was the idea of how to think about your practicing, and I compared it to a house.
Okay.
And you know, the fundamentals that's the foundation to the house.
Right.
And the most important part of a house is the foundation. If the foundation isn't there, it'll crumble. And you can't
Right.
build a house on the ground; it'll just fall down. And also, you know, if you think of the house on top of that is all the stuff that you want to be able to play. You can't put a skyscraper on the same foundation as a normal 2,000 square foot house.
That's a good point too. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, your foundation has to match what's going to be put on top of it. And so if you want to get better, you've got to build it. You've got to focus on it.
I may be misremembering, but I think I used that exact analogy when I was at summer sectionals, either this past marching season or the one before that. I actually drew it up on the board for the trombone players.
Yeah,
And I used the same thing. Like I was like, what happens if this isn't here for a house? And then, you know,
right.
kids won't understand foundation problems. But
That's
they're
true.
awful.
That's true. Hopefully they won't.
Just
But,
like
you know,
you're playing without warm up. Right?
But it's the same, you know. I invest in real estate, so this is something that's near and dear to me. But you know, if you let the foundation go in a house, you know, if it cracks or if it starts to sink, and you don't address it, the house will fall down.
Right.
It'll crack in half and fall down, and that's a major issue.
It's terrifying.
And so the foundation is something that you've always got to check into and make sure that it is solid.
Right, right. So I think just to tack on to what you were talking about, I think it's funny. This week happens every year where the oh crap moment happens when they realize how quickly the solo contests or ensemble contests, what have you, are approaching. And so the way I structure it is after all region season, we either resume a solo that they were working on or we completely start a new one, and it's like, bam, here we go. Like the next week after, we start to hone in on fundamentals a little more, but we start to attack on like playing assignments for solos. And if you were to draw a chart, it would go of progress versus time. It would be like this. And then I get to this week where it's like 2 or 3 weeks before, and then the progress just goes shoom, and they just shoot up.
Right.
So this week it's great. Like I've had a great week of lessons. Everybody can play their solos now, or for the most part they can, you know, but like they've made more progress in the last week on their solos than the previous 4 weeks combined.
Right.
And that includes memorization. That includes anybody who's playing a solo that I've put online on our YouTube channel. So I wish that we might want to do a topic of how to avoid doing that.
Yeah, that'd be good, because
procrastination.
I've gotten on the case of many students over a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and then they'd improve, and I'd look at them after they improved and say, why did it take me yelling at you to, you
Right.
know, let's get this. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's a whole another.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about, you could go down that rabbit trail for sure and say, anything in life that's worth doing, right? It's this concept of like, do you feel like doing it? If the answer is no, you should probably do it.
Right.
If you feel like doing it and the answer is yes, you probably shouldn't do it, right?
Right.
So, and I think you can break that down to like a complete science, but especially with your practice time.
Yeah.
No, and by the way, let's clear this air right now. Do we love playing our scales? Like, do we just love it? It's
No.
like, no, I don't love it either. But can we play our scales? Yes. Do we love doing like a really intensive warm up where we're,
No.
Nobody does.
No.
Stop thinking that we're weird and we
You don't.
do.
You
Like,
don't have to love it. You just got to do it.
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
What you will love is seeing your name at the top of the list whenever results
Absolutely.
come out. Though, so
Being good is the fun part.
right,
Getting good is the hard part.
right, and that's oof. You could quote that and put it in a life self-help book.
Right.
But anyway, just for time's sake, I think we could talk about the Wound Dresser by John Adams. So you're going to talk a lot about this.
Uh-huh.
So let me give you my 2 cents, and then I'm going to let you roll.
2 cents.
Okay. 2 cents. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Cent number 1. No, I was kidding. So I was actually introduced to this piece yesterday from Michael. He asked if I had ever heard it, and I said no. To which he said that I should go listen to it. So when a good musician tells you to go listen to something, go listen to it. So it's tragically sad, just from a general standpoint. And it's just...
It's a great piece to kick off the podcast with.
Yeah, oh gosh, like... Just think, we could have done like the third movement of Tchaik 6, or excuse me, the fourth movement of Tchaik 6, which is like a suicide note from Tchaikovsky, and it would have been like a level up of happiness from what this was. So,
Right.
But yeah, it's just kind of like a drag, like each one of those long notes where it's like boom, 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 and it's just like the whole for like 18, 19 minutes. It's just like just dragging on. It's like I got home and I needed to turn on like the song about how it's Friday, that Rebecca Black, just because I was so sad from it. So that's a 30,000 foot overview of it. Very difficult trumpet parts, and that's noticeable throughout the piece. I think it's for chamber orchestra, right?
Yeah, it's not the standard size orchestra. I don't have the instrumentation in front of me exactly what it's for, but
Okay.
yeah, it's much smaller.
We've got a speaker set up, and we're going to play parts of that excerpt, and then basically Michael's going to give us a course over the piece is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm going to
Are
try
you
to
hooked
keep
up
it
and ready to
brief,
go?
actually. Huh?
I'm sorry.
So yeah, I've been listening to this piece called "The Wound Dresser" by John Adams, and John Adams is not the second president. This is probably the most famous of the contemporary composers, and
It's not John Quincy Adams either.
not John Quincy. No. John Adams is out in I think Los Angeles or out in that area.
Oh, he's still alive?
Yeah, he's born in 1947, so he's
okay.
whatever the math is there. I don't want to
Don't
do
ask
math.
me. It'd be 72.
There you go. This is why we do music. We can count to 4. But anyway, he made this piece. He wrote this piece after some poems by Walt Whitman, and Walt Whitman lived from 1819 to 1892, and Whitman was very heavily affected by the Civil War, and his brother fought in the war, and I believe it was 1862. His brother got injured, and so Whitman went and cared for his brother as he was recovering from his injuries from the war in Washington, D.C. And Walt Whitman got sucked into this idea of all these people that are injured now that need help, and he spent over a decade caring for these soldiers. So anyway, I wanted to play some sections of this and go through the poetry a little bit. It's sad, but it's also very beautiful music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to play right at the beginning for you, and just to give you a sense of the piece. It's got this kind of this sense of like the music is breathing.
Mm-hmm.
This out, in, out, in. Just beautiful.
That reminds me a little bit of Ein Heldenleben, where the first violin is just like bagging on this like first and just one note, just like it almost sounds like it's pleading, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so the thing to think about here is that it's this medic walking around the field of battle, looking at these wounded soldiers and trying to find someone to help. And so not only the string part, it feels like steps on the field, but it also is the breathing, dealing with, you know, the tragedy of this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move ahead a little bit in this piece. I'm going to show you a couple of the most dramatic parts of the piece. The first one, the words for this, is from the Whitman poetry. It says, "I onward go, I stop, with hinged knees and steady hands to dress the wounds. I am firm with each. The pangs are sharp, yet unavoidable. One turns to me, his appealing eyes. Poor boy, I never knew you, yet I think I could not refuse this moment to die for you, if that would save you."
God.
Yeah.
Oh man. Jeez.
So it's interesting. I want you to listen to the harmony when the singer says, "One turns to me," and all of a sudden it stops from being a piece where it's just walking along, just trying to care for people, and then it becomes instantly personal.
Right.
Let me play that.
Steady hand to dress wounds. I am firm with each. The pangs are sharp, yet unavoidable.
Right here.
One turns to me, his appealing eyes. Poor boy, I never knew you, yet I think I could not refuse this moment to die for you. If that would save you.
So anyway, gorgeous. It was a gorgeous section of the piece.
I just want to. That's so tragically sad.
Yeah.
Like
So,
I
what
feel
I
like
do.
it hits a nerve because like we don't know anything about what war is like.
Oh yeah. We are such pansies today.
It's
Crazy.
It's to think like, you know, because some people might listen to that and be like, wow, that guy's dramatic. It's like no, I'm not one of those people that thinks that video games are creating like a more violent culture. I think the violent culture stems from the fact that we don't have parents leading the household. But anyway, the part of that, gosh, it just tears you up. Like, why can you like mindlessly play a video game about war and just shoot 'em up, and then whenever you watch Saving Private Ryan, you get a gut wrench,
Right.
Because it's real, right?
Mhm.
That to me is just so freaking real. It's
Yeah.
like I can see somebody on the battlefield of the Civil War where some 700,000 Americans died.
Yeah, it's a
Something
lot.
plus,
Yeah.
I think it's something more than that. And it's like I can't imagine just the just crying out and the screaming of what like what a wound dresser would have to go, or like a doctor, like a medic on the field of battle would have to just witness.
Yeah.
And then, like you were talking about, there's like that moment. Are you going to talk about the moment of the? Okay, I'll let you go with that because it's awesome.
This next part is probably the biggest climax of the piece, this. Well, here are the words. It says, "I dress a wound in the side, deep, deep, but a day or two more, foresee the frame all wasted and sinking, and the yellow-blue countenance see. I dress the perforated soldier, the foot with the bullet wound, cleanse the one with a gnawing and putrid gangrene, so sickening, so offensive." And so in the poem, that's probably the biggest outburst of anger. But John Adams doesn't put, he doesn't make that the climax. What he makes the climax is after that. It's almost like the music screams for the poem, just in agony.
Right.
So let's hear it.
All right.
It also has a great piccolo trumpet part.
I dress a wound in the side, deep, deep. But a day or two more, oh, see the frame all wasted and sinking, and the yellow countenance see. I dress the perforated shoulder, the foot with the bullet wound, cleanse the one with a gnawing and putrid gangrene. So sickening, so offensive.
And then the music changes back to the walking through the battlefield to care for more people.
Dude, that's intense, man.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
intense.
So anyway, here's
Just,
here's
you
the
gotta
deal with
breathe after that.
here's the deal with art. Art is supposed to teach us the nature of truth and beauty and goodness. And sometimes we confuse beauty with being pretty. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Beauty is a reflection of the goodness of mankind. If you're a person of belief, it's the goodness of your Creator. And there's something beautiful about someone walking through the battlefield and caring for other people, and pouring their emotions into these people. So anyway, I love it. I think it's a great piece.
The power of it, you can't deny it. I mean,
Right.
You listen to it and, gosh, man, it's just like I find it it's so funny because after that moment when there's the release, you go, and like you don't even know why.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just go through some closing remarks. I appreciate the information. That's good stuff, man. It's really good stuff.
Got it.
The last thing we're gonna close out here real quick, but what we're trying to do here is something just beyond. We're trying to have a reach beyond our own personal circle. We believe in what we're trying to do here. I feel like there's an unheard cry from the music world for people who are willing to reach out and help and kind of like lend a helping hand to other people. And I know that because, dude, I've seen videos of 7th graders playing Ruby, and they have 50,000 views on like a YouTube video. It's like the people are looking for ways to access and have access to professionals, and we really, really, really believe in what we're doing. And then I'm going to open it up and say, if you're watching this video, and you have something that you think that we should add on or that you have any suggestions for us, I'd love to do a Q&A session like, if there's a question in the comment section, we can answer that.
Absolutely. We're on Facebook too.
Yeah, on Facebook
And
too.
you can follow us just it's facebook.com/pursuit of music.
Yeah, and then obviously our website is pursuitofmusic.com.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram is _pursuit of music, all one word, and then another underscore at the back end of that. Do you have anything as a closing remark before we head out?
I don't think so. I just follow us on Instagram. Tell your friends that we're
Right.
here. That we
Don't
are
hold back.
right. We're here to answer the need, and we're hoping to really provide something quite special for everyone.
Yeah,
So,
and just so y'all are aware, we are doing this type of information, not just for trombone and trumpet, but we're doing it for tuba, euphonium,
right.
French horn, trombone, obviously trumpet, and for right now, clarinet, saxophone, and flute. We're going to start looking into getting recordings for that too. It takes. What you'll have to understand is it takes time and it takes money. So, and right now we're doing the best that we can to provide really good content for you guys for the time being as we start to build up. But I know for me, I've got content I'm putting up today. Obviously, I've got to cut this podcast, and I'm going to be recording even more this week. We're going to get Michael recording a bunch of stuff. We're looking at doing a bunch of stuff for you guys. So just stay tuned and be on the lookout for what we got going on.
Yeah, and if you enjoy the podcast, go on to iTunes, give us a rating.
Yeah.
5-star ratings help us to get noticed by other people.
Yeah.
And any other comments would be great.
All right. Good to go.
All right, signing off.